US President Joe Biden's attempt is to ensure that there are stronger sanctions against Russia's President Putin and the war-enabling machine, as the West calls it. The attempts are also to ensure that Ukraine gets additional military supplies, military hardware from NATO countries, and of course humanitarian assistance, not just to Ukraine but also to countries like Poland, where more than 2.2 million displaced people from Ukraine have now come and are seeking refuge. But for the US, the biggest challenge is to checkmate the Russian President Putin and his war machine. Will they succeed in that? So far, all indications are even stronger sanctions against the oligarchs and others haven't succeeded in deterring the Russian president. What happens next? Our report tells you more.
Putin war machine rolls on, slowly but with no signs of stopping. The raging war has galvanized the West to get its act together. The urgency evident as United States President Joe Biden air dashed to Brussels for a power-packed Thursday. 3 unprecedented back-to-back emergency summits of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, G7 nations and the European Union. The aim is to take more punitive measures against Russia and add more muscle to Ukraine's defenses.
We believe in democracy, in the rule of law, in the defense of human rights, in the values that underpin all of our societies. That's why this illegal, brutal invasion of a friendly democracy in Ukraine by Vladimir Putin is absolutely unacceptable. NATO and partners around the world are united in condemning and standing up to Russia.
The West's options are limited. It has already declared it won't join the war. What their military alliance NATO would do is strengthen its defenses in Eastern European member nations by sending more troops and equipment. It will also supply more arms and ammunition to Ukraine to fight any escalation by the invading Russian forces. But they also need to calibrate a response to frequent nuclear saber-rattling by Russia. The West's assistance, however, might not be enough to satisfy Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He wants the West to be more proactive.
На цих 3 самітах буде наша позиція, міцна позиція. На цих 3 самітах ми побачимо, хто друг, хто партнер, а хто продався і зрадив. Життя можна захистити тільки у єдності. Свобода, вона має бути озброєною.
There are reasons for Zelensky to be disappointed. While the US and its allies have imposed many sanctions on Russia, Europe still buys gas from Moscow. Ukrainian voices have time and again complained that doing business with Moscow is as good as financing the war. Western nations, meanwhile, have announced fresh sanctions to corner Russia. The United Kingdom has slapped 65 more sanctions against Russian business groups and individuals, including the Wagner Group, described as Putin's private army, and Russian Foreign Minister's stepdaughter, Polina Kovaleva. But will all this be enough to stop the war? A top European Union diplomat, Josep Borrell, has warned Russia will not be serious about peace talks until it secures itself a position of strength. The war may not be ending anytime soon. With Gaurav Sawant in Warsaw, Poland, and Geeta Mohan in Moscow, Bureau Report, India Today.
On ground in Ukraine, President Putin's war machine continues to create havoc across Ukraine. It's not just limited to rocket strikes and missile strikes in Kiev, but Mariupol, for example. A series of missile strikes in Mariupol have reduced major parts of the city to just rubble and a ghost town. And it's not just about Mariupol. Kharkiv is being targeted, Kherson is being targeted, and the Black Sea. Ukraine has almost lost control of the Black Sea, so much so that the European Union had to say that wheat supplies for the internally displaced people isn't being permitted by Russia to reach those who desperately need it. On day 29 of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we get you this ground report.
Unending explosions, airstrikes, missile attacks. Russia continues to up the offensive against Ukraine as the war completes its first month. Russia has released hair-raising images of a strike on a Ukrainian shopping mall in Kyiv. Russia said the mall was used as a storage silo for rockets and missiles. The drone strike showed what Russia called a civilian center being used as a human shield. The city of Mariupol in the east has been devastated. Several parts of the urban center turned into a ghost town after multiple shellings in the Russian offensive so far. Drone images on your screen show damaged multi-story buildings in the city of Mariupol. Chilling images of massive explosions from the Ukrainian port of Berdyansk. Images show a huge plume of smoke and fire billowing into the skies, engulfing the region. While a warehouse with ammunition and fuel was destroyed, Ukraine claims that a Russian landing ship was also destroyed by its forces. Life has come to a standstill after non-stop bombardment from Russian forces in the northern city of Chernihiv. Familiar images show broken buildings, smoke emerging from houses, and huge destruction in neighborhood after neighborhood, evident almost everywhere. The second biggest city of Ukraine, Kharkiv, remains the worst hit with ceaseless attacks. Charred buildings, even more commercial establishments reduced to rubble, show significant amounts of damage caused to the city. But Ukraine's valiant fight back continues. The country claims over 12,000 Russian soldiers are in and around the Kiev region, out of which 3,000 Russian soldiers are almost surrounded, whereas 4,000 soldiers are said to have been cut off completely. These remain in the realm of claims and counterclaims on both sides. What is certain is that the pile of human bodies and debris is piling up with each passing hour. With Rajesh Pawar in Kyiv, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Russians appear to be digging in for the long haul in Kiev. India Today's soldier reporter Rajesh Pawar has been in Kiev from before the conflict started, and on day 29 of the conflict, he reports how the Russians are now digging in for the long haul. There are trenches that are coming up. Does this indicate that apart from the rocket strikes and the missile strikes, the Russians are actually laying a siege around Kiev, and the situation could escalate from this point on? We bring you this ground report on day 29 of the conflict.
I'm right now in a central square in Kyiv city. What you see behind me are the mythological figures, mythological heroes from Ukrainian mythology. The spirit we see in the Ukrainian people at the moment, the spirit to fight back any invaders who come invading their country. These heroes from mythology have a lot to contribute to that. The young people of Ukraine take a lot of inspiration from these stories from the mythology, where these heroes have defeated anybody who have ever tried to destroy or invade Ukraine. This is Rajesh Pawar from Kyiv for India Today. I'm on a checkpost here which has been prepared to counter any kind of attack coming on this particular road. Here, if you see behind me, these white sandbags, this is where soldiers will take position in case anything comes from that direction towards this checkpost. And these black, this iron hedgehogs you see, they are basically for anti-tank obstacle. Let me show you what a soldier will see through these sandbags in case enemy is coming on this road from the other side. I'll just show you around, take you how it will feel. This is how it will look to a soldier from these sandbags, and he can see any tanks coming from there, any soldiers coming from there, so that he can take aim through this hole and he is safe while he's doing so. This is how it looks, and this is on top. So soldier will be totally safe. He'll be able to see through this gap in the sandbags and will be able to aim his rifle or maybe even an anti-tank weapon through this hole, and will be able to protect this road or deny its use to the enemy for a long time. And these kind of obstacles have been created all over Kyiv city now. Entire city on main roads, after every 200 to 300 meters, you see something like this. Lot of sandbags, concrete blocks, and these hedgehogs all over the city now. This is Rajesh Pawar from Kyiv on 29th day between Russia and Ukraine. I'm right now in front of this device. This is an innovation which has been made by people here. They have just used pipes which is used for construction. Can you hear the pipe? And they've sliced these iron rods, which are again used for construction, sliced it so they become sharp in the one corner, and then welded it to the pipes here. So when they're placed on the ground, it stays stable, it doesn't move, but nothing can move over it. So this kind of innovation we are seeing here. And wherever there are no soldiers, they cannot put soldiers everywhere in the city. They just need to place this so that they can deny that road to any kind of vehicles of the Russian army, invading army, which is coming inside, and they can be stopped. Anything which is with rubber tires cannot pass over this, including a ICV, infantry combat vehicle. So this is a very, very effective innovation, a military innovation to deny the use of a road to an invading army. This is Rajesh Pawar for India Today on the 29th day of the war.
Germany has decided to give additional Strela missiles to Ukraine to continue its battle. Ukraine's President Zelensky made an impassioned appeal, virtually seeking a blank check of weapons and systems, especially anti-ship missiles and anti-air missiles. Surface-to-air missiles is what Ukraine is seeking. One thing is clear, Ukraine will not get either boots on ground as far as North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries are concerned, or even a peacekeeping force or a no-fly zone. But after that, NATO countries are reassuring Ukraine, given the strong stance and fight Ukraine has put up in the past 29 days and counting, military hardware will continue to pour in.
Civilians training to pick up guns to fight for their country. Fathers and mothers with their teenage children take turns to learn how to operate machine guns.
We would like to watch and learn how to use arms to protect our children.
Ukraine has been training its citizens since the first week of March. They are all preparing for a lengthy war.
I believe that it is just in case, and I won't need this knowledge, but in case like the Russian invasion move further to Lviv, or maybe in case they will launch some missiles to Lviv, and maybe I could join some medical, medicine stuff, into medicine.
While ordinary Ukrainians train and prepare to defend their country, the world has gradually but steadily been helping the defender. Faced with the mighty aggressor, Ukraine looks severely out of favor from a military point of view. Yet a country with just 2 lakh active military personnel has been able to stand up to a behemoth Russian army that has sophisticated weaponry at its command. A large part of that fierce resistance comes from the swift transfer of military equipment by NATO and other allied countries. In a first, the 27-country bloc of the European Union signed off a $551 million package to help arm Ukraine. Germany has rewritten its long-standing policy that barred exporting weapons into war zones. Germany sent 1,000 anti-tank weapons, 500 Stinger anti-craft defense systems to Ukraine. Within days of the invasion, France reportedly promised to send military aid to Ukraine, but there's no publicly disclosed specifics of it. The United Kingdom has so far sent 2,000 short-range and anti-tank missiles, Saxon armored vehicles, and Sky Sabre air defense system with 100 military operators. The US so far has been the largest contributor, with 1,400 Stinger anti-aircraft missile systems, 4,600 Javelin anti-tank missiles, 5 Mi-17 helicopters, 3 patrol boats, 4 counter-artillery and counter-drone tracking radars, 2,000 light anti-armor weapons, 300 grenade launchers and ammunition. They've also sent 600 shotguns and 600 machine guns, 5,000 rifles, 1,000 pistols, 25,000 sets of body armor, 25,000 helmets. The US has so far sent nearly 40 million rounds of small arms ammunition, over 1 million grenades, mortar and artillery rounds, along with 70 Humvees and other vehicles, 6,000 at 4 anti-armor systems and 1,000 switchable drones.
I'm grateful to US President Biden for new effective aid for our country. You should understand that I can't reveal all the details of this package of aid and others. This is our defense tactic when the enemy doesn't know what to expect from us.
Justin Trudeau has been the next big military aid contributor in arming Ukraine after Joe Biden. Canada has sent nearly 4,500 M72 rocket launchers, 1,600 fragmentation vests, nearly 7,500 hand grenades. Other than that, it has also contributed $1 million to buy commercial satellite high-resolution and modern imagery, machine guns, pistols and carbines. Canada has sent 1.5 million rounds of ammunition, sniper rifles and various related equipment worth $7.9 million to Ukraine so far. It has also contributed $19.9 million in military aid that could include helmets, body armor, gas masks and night vision gears. From Asia, Japan has sent bulletproof vests and helmets to Ukraine, and South Korea too has contributed to the war effort. The next door neighbor for both Russia and Ukraine, Poland has reportedly contributed tens of thousands of shells and artillery ammunition, anti-aircraft missiles, light mortars and reconnaissance drones. All three Baltic and Scandinavian countries too have contributed with military aid to arm Ukraine, as has other European countries. Australia and New Zealand have come with major military donations for Ukraine. But for now, all this help from around the world has not been able to convince Putin's army to back down. The war continues and destruction abounds.
Russia has warned the North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries, if peacekeepers are put on ground, if there are boots on ground, it would be seen as a serious escalation. 1 month into this conflict, a very clear message has been given to the West. This is a war between Russia and Ukraine, and the West should keep away from this. 1 month into this conflict, there is talk of a nuclear escalation. There is talk of nuclear, chemical and biological weapons being used. But amidst all of that, what's the situation on ground 29 days into this conflict? Our next report gets us more. A lightning invasion has dragged out into a grinding war. With Putin's giant military convoys crippled by logistics, Ukrainian cities ruined but still standing, and Russia in the death grip of global sanctions. Fears are rising that Putin has been pressured so much that he may actually climb the escalation ladder. On the ground, there are already signs that a tireless Putin is not prepared to dial things down, but rather intensify his operation. Consider the following from just the last 4 days. Proof 1. Nuclear forces on alert. For starters, Team Putin's language is now fully nuclear, brandishing the possible use of nuclear weapons as if they were conventional and raising temperatures to the maximum. It doesn't help that Putin has already put his nuclear arsenal on operational alert. Proof 2. Nuclear-capable weapons. Russia has debuted its long-range Kinzhal nuclear-capable air-launched strike weapon against Ukrainian targets. This was the first use of the weapon in combat
and it signals a definite escalation in the strength being brought to the battlefield. Proof number 3, long-range weapons. The Russian Defense Ministry is in overdrive, putting out videos of long-range strikes on strategic assets of Ukraine, including this missile launch claimed to have destroyed a Ukrainian weapons depot in the western city of Refugee. Also signaling that the western part of the country, which shares borders with NATO nations, isn't off limits to Russian strikes. Proof 4, creating case for more damage. Over the last week, Russia has been building a case for greater damage, but pointing out on a daily basis that Ukraine has been using civilian areas for military operations, like this drone video of a Ukrainian shopping center being used to reload missiles and rockets during a firing exchange.
I don't think Russia needs to defend anything at this point. I mean, we have our own, again, national security interests. Mind you, doing what no NATO member has ever done, protecting the civilian population inside that same country, that was a threat to our national security interests.
Proof number 5, NATO arms flooding Ukraine. The fifth indicator is that delaying an escalation would mean Ukraine gets even better armed with NATO weapons. The country is already awash with new generation anti-tank and anti-air weaponry, and much more is clearly inbound, as India Today's Gaurav Sawant personally witnessed in this world-exclusive report.
Are these American troops here as part of a North Atlantic Treaty Organization country NATO military exercise? They started coming here. The initial troops or the pioneers came in between mid to end February, and the larger number of troops are still coming in.
Putin is under pressure, and with each passing hour, that pressure to act is spiraling. For a month, the world has held its breath, and it's holding its breath even harder now. With Geeta Mohan in Moscow and Gaurav Sawant in Warsaw, Bureau Report, India Today.
Hours from now, US President Joe Biden will be in Warsaw. He will be meeting President Duda. He's likely to visit a humanitarian assistance camp. He will pat Poland on the back for helping more than 2.2 million refugees who've come from Ukraine and are living here. But the bigger threat that even Poland faces is from Russia. In case this situation is not controlled, Poland would be sharing its borders not with Ukraine, but with a regime very close to President Putin. And that is a threat being faced not just by Poland, but by several other countries in this region. The question remains, how will this situation be diffused? We will be tracking that story very closely, but that is all that cameraman Lalit Joshi and I have for you on this special broadcast from Warsaw. Many thanks for watching.